Hi, my name's Kaval, and my topic is HIV and stigma.
The three main points I'll be discussing in today's presentation are: why is there stigma associated with HIV? How does it affect people living with HIV? And lastly, what can we do to stop the further stigmatization? So first of all, what is stigma? Stigma basically means a mark of shame. This mark can be anything from your sexual orientation to an illness like HIV, and the shame can be to anyone regardless of gender, sex, or ethnicity. Stigma also takes many forms. Stigma can be induced by fear. For example, parents don't want their kids going to the same school as other kids who have HIV. It can also lead to prejudice, where say one group, like homosexuals, are held responsible for the increase in HIV transmission. It can also be discrimination. Discrimination like certain HIV positive people can't get certain jobs. So why is there stigma associated with HIV? One of the reasons is because HIV is already associated with other things that have been stigmatized, like homosexuality, drug use, and prostitution. Another reason for stigmatization of HIV is that HIV is fatal. There's no cure for this disease. Because HIV is a life-threatening disease, it induces fear in people. Also, this fear is further increased because of all the misinformation that's out there about HIV. Misinformation like hugging or touching an HIV-infected person can transmit the disease onto you, or sharing toilet seats or eating up food that's been prepared by an HIV-infected person. Also, that HIV can only happen to certain people, like gay men and women or young girls. That's not true. All this misinformation leads to the increase in fear of this disease. People don't know what to believe. So how does stigmatization affect people living with HIV? Stigmatization builds up the prejudice and the discrimination to such a level that people are reluctant to get tested. In a recent incident, a woman who was HIV positive was beaten to death by her own neighbor because she had disclosed this information publicly. This kind of hatred makes it harder to get information on how to prevent this disease out to the general public, and it makes it even harder to encourage testing. Women pass on this infection to their babies without even knowing that they had it in the first place. HIV also can be related to poverty. It's the head of the family that sometimes is infected with HIV, and they can't go out and get work, which leaves the kids orphaned if the parent dies, or leaves the kids to fend for themselves or take after their parents. Lastly, what can we do to prevent stigmatization? A lot of stigmatization is because of the misinformation that's out there. One way to clear all this stigmatization is to inform people of how HIV can be transmitted, how it can only be transmitted through bodily fluids, breastfeeding, or through blood. Another way is to encourage testing. If people get tested, if they know their status, it makes it easier for them to know what the next step is, whether they should take medicine or not. Also, there's a silence around this disease that almost makes it supernatural. This is a normal illness. It is like any other illness, and it needs to be disclosed publicly. Awareness about this disease needs to be made, and this awareness needs to start with self-awareness. Lastly, what can we do to stop the stigmatization? What if you were HIV positive? If I were HIV positive, I would teach the world to understand. And understanding is what we need. Not just understanding of how this disease works, but also understanding of how you can be prevented from having this disease. Understanding of how a person who does have this disease, how they feel. There needs to be more encouragement to get tested for this disease. Without knowing whether you have it or not, there is no next step. Also, there's a silence around this disease that needs to be corrected. HIV is a normal illness like any other illness. Right now, we don't know too much about it, but like any other illness, this takes time. Someday, with time, we might know better. We might know more about HIV. We might even have a cure. But until then, we need to raise more awareness for this disease. If this disease isn't making people, it's definitely not breaking them. I would like to end my presentation with a little poem. It's called To Others About AIDS. Warn others about AIDS. Do it before it's too late. Scare others about AIDS. Do it before they even start to date. Educate others about AIDS. Do it before they're old enough to mate. Steer others away from AIDS. Do it before any love turns to hate. Reach out to others about AIDS. Do it before they turn into dead hate. Preach to others about AIDS. Do it before heaven closes its gates. Remind others always about AIDS. Do it before they blame it on fate. Break through to others about AIDS. Do it before there's no break to its rate. Plead to all worthy politicians about AIDS. Do it before the population continues debate. Alert one and all about AIDS. Do it before AIDS death continue, never to sate. Don't just say I don't have AIDS myself, but rather say I want the whole world to be free from AIDS. In conclusion, stigmatization, crime against humanity needs to stop because we are all part of the problem. Even though today you might be safe, tomorrow you could be on the outside looking in. What would you do if you were HIV positive? I would fight back. Thank you.